The rain fell in sheets across the thornwood forest, turning the battlefield's remnants into a muddy graveyard. Harriet moved cautiously through the wreckage, her green skin glistening wet, her tusks catching what little moonlight pierced the storm clouds. As a field medic for the Orcish coalition, she'd seen countless battles between her people and the various species of the galaxy. But this one had been different. The humans had been here. She found him half buried under a collapsed gunship, his breathing shallow, blood seeping from a gash across his temple. Human, male, still alive somehow. Harriet's first instinct was to move on. Humans were the enemy. After all, they'd been pushing into coalition space for months, their relentless advance seemingly unstoppable. But her oath as a healer overrode her hatred. She couldn't leave anyone to die, not like this. With considerable effort, Harriet dragged him free and hoisted his unconscious form over her shoulder. He was lighter than she expected, his body lean and scarred. She carried him back to her medical tent on the outskirts of the forest. Laying him on a cot before beginning her work. As she cleaned his wounds, she noticed things. Scars, dozens of them, crisscrossing his torso and arms. Burns, old shrapnel marks. This man had seen more than one war. Around his neck hung a strange medallion, inscribed with symbols she didn't recognize. When she finally stabilized him, exhaustion claimed her, and she fell asleep in the chair beside his cot. Miles woke to unfamiliar surroundings and the dull ache of treated wounds. He tried to sit up, wincing, and that's when he saw her, an orc woman, asleep in a chair, her medical kit still open on the table. His hand instinctively moved toward his sidearm, but it was gone. Of course it was. You're awake, Harriet said, her eyes snapping open. She spoke in heavily accented Standard Galactic. Don't move. You lost much blood. Miles studied her warily. Why am I alive? I'm healer. I save lives. She stood, checking his bandages with professional efficiency. Even human lives. Over the following days, an uneasy truce formed between them. The fighting had moved on, leaving them isolated in the forest. Harriet's unit had been wiped out, and Miles was too injured to travel. They had no choice but to coexist. Harriet found herself fascinated by this human. His name was Miles, and unlike the propaganda she'd been fed, he wasn't a bloodthirsty monster. He was quiet, thoughtful, and surprisingly gentle despite his warrior's build. He helped her gather supplies, taught her better techniques for treating plasma burns, and at night, when the pain kept him awake, he would talk. How many wars have you fought? She asked one evening, gesturing to his scars. Miles was silent for a long moment. 6, no, 7 if you count the colony rebellions. 7 wars? Harriet's eyes widened. How old are you? 34 standard years. It didn't make sense. Orcs reached maturity slower than humans. 7 wars in such a short time seemed impossible. Why so many? Why does your species fight so much? Miles smiled sadly. We don't fight because we want to, Harriet. We fight because we have to. Humans. We're not the strongest species. We're not the smartest. We don't have natural weapons like your tusks or armor like the krill. But we survive. That's what we do. We adapt. We endure. But why attack coalition space? We had peace. Miles laughed bitterly. You call the Rigel blockade peace? When your people cut off trade routes to human colonies, thousands starved. My home world was one of them. I watched my sister die because medicine couldn't get through your peaceful blockade. Harriet felt something crack inside her. The propaganda had never mentioned blockades or starving colonies. She'd been told humans were aggressive expansionists, nothing more. As weeks passed, Harriet learned more about humanity. Miles showed her the medallion around his neck. It was a military citation for saving his entire platoon by holding a position alone for 3 days without sleep, food, or reinforcements. He didn't brag about it. He seemed almost ashamed. The thing about humans, he explained one night, is that we don't know when to quit. It's both our greatest strength and our worst curse. We'll throw ourselves at impossible odds because giving up isn't in our nature. We've been the underdogs for so long that fighting beyond our limits is just normal for us. Harriet began to understand the reputation humans had earned across the galaxy. They weren't superior warriors or brilliant strategists. They were survivors. Creatures who'd clawed their way up from a death world and refused to ever back down. Every human soldier was a testament to their species' fundamental stubbornness, a refusal to accept defeat even when logic demanded it. One morning, Harriet woke to find Miles standing at the tent entrance, fully dressed, his recovered gear packed. He was healed enough to travel. "You're leaving," she said, not a question. "I have to. My people need me." He turned to face her. "But I wanted to thank you. You didn't have to save me. You could have left me to die." Harriet stood, moving closer. "Miles, what you told me about the blockade, about your sister, is it all true?" "Every word." "Then this war." "It's not what I thought." Miles nodded. "War never is. Both sides have reasons. Both sides have pain. The trick is finding a way to stop before everyone's dead." Harriet made a decision that would change her life. "Take me with you." "What?" "Take me to your commanders. I can testify about what the coalition did. Maybe I can help end this." Miles stared at her, and slowly, a genuine smile crossed his scarred face. "You know what you're risking." "I'm a healer," Harriet said firmly. "My job is saving lives, even if it means saving them from my own people's mistakes." As they left the forest together, Harriet understood what made humans so formidable. It wasn't their technology or their tactics. It was their ability to inspire hope even in the darkest moments, to make even their enemies believe that tomorrow could be better. Miles had been broken, scarred, defeated, yet he'd still chosen compassion when he could have chosen hatred. That, Harriet realized, was the real human superpower, the refusal to let the universe make them cruel. The war would continue, but perhaps, with voices like theirs raised together, it wouldn't continue forever. And that small hope, kindled in a rain-soaked forest between two former enemies, was enough to change everything.